Hi guys, welcome back to the Workbench. I wanted to share with you something I've been working on, and with the help of a fellow Armatan designer who does some of their PCBs, I've decided to do my own PCB, or PDB in this case. Now, I had some design criteria for this, and it kind of morphed around as we were discussing what to do, and in the end this is what I came up with. And just want to explain to you what I decided and what kind of makes this unique. So, let's start off by telling you what frames I designed this PDB for. It is a standard size. It does mount on the 30 by 30 or 30.5 by 30.5 mounting patterns, just like most standard flight controllers. But you can see we've got a little bit of a tab right here coming off the front, and a tab coming off the back. And those are some key design features that I need to explain. So we'll start with the one that's closest to the camera. And sorry for shaking it, but here we go. On this tab, you'll notice, let's bring it closer so you can see, we've got ground cam signal, ground 5-volt LED, signal VTX ground, and then a series of jumpers that says cam volt and VTX volt. So, if you're familiar with the Maytech boards, they kind of do this very similar thing. Basically, they use the PDB as a pass-through for your video into your VTX, but in the process of doing that, they also provide your voltage regulation to your VTX and your camera. So I decided with this PDB I wanted to have a 5-volt and a 12-volt regulator, and if you're familiar with PDBs, you can kind of see that those are some linear buck regulators I have on there, and one of them is actually quite large, and I'll explain that in a moment. But first, to get to what these are, is basically you're going to power your VTX off the PDB using those 3 pads, and you're going to power your camera off that, and then the video is a pass-through. This just makes wiring really simple. So instead of trying to run 2 wires to the PDB and then a wire from the camera to the VTX for the video, and then run another 2 wires from the VTX to the PDB to power that, you're just running to the PDB. The PDB becomes a hub, which is what you want it to do, because that makes your wiring very clean and simple, and it also makes it very easy to service things. If you need to replace a camera lead, you don't have to go to several different places to unsolder it. You just do it all in one spot. Now you can see the jumpers are there too, near the top here, so you can actually select for both cases if you want to run 5 volts or 12. So you don't have to run 5 volts to your camera. If you want to run 12, you can. And same thing with your VTX. Some of the VTXs out there actually only run off of 5 volts, so either way, you get to choose. You have your standard pads for your ESCs along the sides, and then you have your battery leads in on the back with 2 extra pads that are direct to the battery if you have any other accessories you want to run. So, the regulators. Just to explain what's going on here, I did say that I chose a 5 volt and a 12 volt, but what's significant about that is I chose a 5 volt that had enough capacity to feed just about anything you can imagine putting on a 3-inch quad. So, power your VTX, can power your camera, your flight control board, your RC receiver, and this is the big thing that I'm hoping to add another board for, addressable LEDs. So, 3-inch quads are hard to see, and fitting LEDs on them is not easy either, because you've already got limited room for all the stuff you're going to put in anyways. So, this board is set up with 5 volt regulator that has enough oomph behind it. It has 3 amps of current that you can pull from it to power all those devices. So those 3 pads that you actually see, let's see if I can get my hand around here, right in the middle, you'll see it says ground, 5 volts, and LED. Those are intended to be wired to your addressable LED, and the board also serves as a pass-through for that. So the top pads that are close to the regulator, you'd use those to power your flight controller and to connect to your addressable LED output signal from the flight controller. And that's pretty much the gist of that side. So getting to this side in more detail, and you can see I've also got the silkscreen Space Cowboy logo on the bottom. I've designed this specifically to use a right angle board mount XT30. And there's a lot of PDBs out there already that do this with an XT60, and I thought that was really cool, but I couldn't find one that did it with the XT30, which I think is more appropriate for a 3-inch quad. So I went ahead and designed that in. Now, It's also designed if you don't want to use that. So you can see the pads are pretty big. You can solder a regular lead on there, and then right here are the two bigger holes, which are normally covered up when you solder in the XT30. That's for you to put a zip tie through and strain relief your power lead. So if you want to run an XT60 or Deans or whatever, you just wire it up like you would normally, and then use a zip tie to strain relief it. So there you go, in a nutshell. That is the PDB I've decided to design, and now I'm going to show you how it fits into my 3-inch quads. So we're going to talk about XLR3 and SCX 140 and how the design is integrated for those. So let's start out by putting a slightly assembled SCX 140 in frame. So I've got this one assembled partially, just standoffs mainly, and a flight control board with the PDB underneath. And you can see it fits down there nicely. The tab that sticks out in the front is where your camera is. So you got your vertical mounts for your camera slot in right around it. They kind of straddle it. Put those in carefully. You can see how neat the wiring is going to end up being because your camera is right there. You just need a really short lead to get your camera wiring in. And it's also easy to service because you don't have to take the flight control board off to get to it. Same thing with the VTX. You're going to run your wires from the bottom up and around the flight control board to the top where the VTX would be mounted. Now, if you're familiar with SCX 140, you'll know that it's just like SCX 200, and you have a vertical plate in the back that mounts the VTX, and lets your antenna come out the back. Now, for the PDB, I anticipated having to change the design because if you have one of these, you know that the opening in the back is not very big. It's big enough for running wires, but it's not big enough for a connector. So I had to make it wider so that it could straddle that XT30 in the back. So if you bought a new SCX 140 probably in the past month or so, you probably already got this plate. But if you haven't, and you decide you want to buy this PDB, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to sell in limited quantities to start with, all you have to do is go to Armatan Productions and order this. It's backwards compatible with all SCX 140s. So, again, if you already bought one of these recently, in the past month, you probably already have this. If you bought it from my web store in the US, then you definitely got it because this is the only version I have right now. And I've only had this one since the beginning. So, that's SCX 140. You can see it gives you a nice clean design. Comes right out the back. Easy to plug your XT30 into from your battery cable. And just neatens up the design, shortens your wiring, makes it easy to assemble. And you got enough capacity there to run any accessory you want. Now lastly, I haven't designed this yet, or I shouldn't say I designed it because actually I have an electrical engineer that's designed this PDB for me based on my specs, is I want to do an addressable LED board that you can sandwich on the bottom to make this a lot easier to see when you're flying it. Not for you, but for other people, you know, because your spotter's going to want to see it. Other people that are flying around you might run into you because they can't see you. So having LEDs on a 3-inch quad, I think, is a good thing. And they're just tough to put on there. So I've got, you know, some of these. And they're longer than the arm in some cases. So you can see they're kind of difficult to place because you just don't have a lot of room. So eventually when I get to it, you're going to have an LED board that you can bolt to the bottom of SCX 140 and XLR3. And the way that'll wire up is you run your 3 leads from the PDB to it through the hole in the front. So that's the whole point of having the PDB as a pass-through. You can pre-wire all that stuff to your flight controller and then later add in the LEDs as you see fit, or don't do it at all. It's up to you. But you have that flexibility. And I'm just going to show you XLR3 real quick, just to kind of show that the concept's pretty much the same. You've got XLR3 base plate. We'll just take this, stick it approximately where it goes, and you can see you got the opening again. You can pass it through, and in the back, it's a little bit longer, so the connector is going to be recessed a little bit more, but you should still be able to get to it, and it'll go right between the standoffs. So that's the PDB I've been working on. It's just one step in the whole process. The next stage is going to be getting LED boards designed. I'm probably going to have the same guy that helped me do this design some LED boards based on the frame layouts. The idea will be that we want to put all the wiring in the board, you know, because when you run addressable LEDs, you can keep adding more and more, and you daisy chain them essentially. But when you do that, it becomes a big old nest of wiring that you have to figure out where you're going to put it cleanly and out of the way. So the goal is to just have 3 wires going from the PDB to power this addressable LED, and also to send the signal pass through to it, and then the board will distribute the rest to the LEDs. And you have a fairly easy to assemble, relatively lightweight, full-featured package. So that's the goal. So I just wanted to show you this, show you what I've been working on. I hope it interests you guys, and that maybe you might want to try it on your SCX 140 or your XLR3, and I have a feeling it might work on some other quads too. It's just up to you to try it out and see. So thanks for tuning in, and I'm going to share more as I get it. If you like this video, subscribe. If you like my designs or my work, you can also follow me on Facebook. I'm Space Cowboy Drone Design, or on Instagram at Space Cowboy FPV, or Drone Design. I don't even remember. If you search it, you'll find it. I'm sure you will. But if you don't search it, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the description below anyways. So thanks again for tuning in, and bye.